The forest around Blackthorn Manor was silent the morning Elena Ashford arrived, as if even the wind knew better than to make noise in the presence of Alpha King Damien Cross. She stepped out of the black car in a plain gray dress, her hands folded tightly in front of her, and looked up at the towering stone house that was now supposed to be her home. Damien stood at the top of the stairs, arms crossed, his expression carved from stone. He was tall, broad-shouldered, with dark hair and eyes the color of a winter sky. 5 years ago, those eyes had held warmth. Now they held nothing but duty. "You must be Elena," he said, his voice flat. "Yes," she answered quietly. "And you must be the Alpha King who agreed to marry a stranger to stop a war." A flicker of something crossed his face, gone before she could name it. "That is exactly what I am." Their marriage had been arranged 3 weeks earlier, after 2 years of brutal conflict between the Blackthorn pack and the Ashford pack had drained both sides of strength and patience. Villages had been burned, warriors had been lost. When the elders of both packs proposed a marriage between the two ruling families to seal a truce, neither Damien nor Elena had been given much choice. For Damien, it did not matter. He had already lost the only thing he had ever wanted 5 years ago, when his fated mate disappeared during a raid on a neighboring territory. Search parties had combed the woods for weeks. They found blood, torn cloth, and nothing else. The elders eventually declared her dead. Damien never fully believed the searches were complete, but he stopped hoping when hope became unbearable. Since then, he ruled his pack with control and discipline, and he closed the door on his heart so firmly that even his own wolf had gone quiet, retreating into a place Damien rarely visited anymore. For Elena, marriage to a man she had never met was simply one more decision made for her by people who claimed to know what was best. She had spent the last 5 years under her father's roof, but not truly living there. She had arrived at the Ashford pack with no memory of her life before that night, found wandering near the border with wounds on her arms and a fractured mind. Alpha Ashford had taken her in, given her his family name, and told everyone she was his long-lost niece returning after years abroad. Elena had no reason to doubt him. She had no memories to contradict his story. All she carried from her old life was a strange ache in her chest whenever she looked toward Blackthorn territory, and a birthmark shaped like a crescent moon on her collarbone that she always kept hidden beneath her clothes. The first weeks of marriage were quiet and distant. Damien barely spoke to her beyond necessary conversations about pack matters. Elena kept to herself, exploring the manor's gardens and library, careful not to draw attention. The servants whispered about the new Luna's calm nature, so different from the rumors of Alpha Ashford's fierce and demanding household. Elena noticed the way Damien's eyes sometimes lingered on her when he thought she wasn't looking. She told herself it was mere curiosity about the stranger sharing his home. But something inside Damien would not stay silent. His wolf, dormant for years, began pacing at odd hours, restless in a way it had not been since the disappearance of his mate. At night, when Elena walked past his study, his wolf pressed forward beneath his skin, aching to follow her. Damien dismissed it as leftover reflexes, the natural awareness any alpha would feel toward someone new, living under his protection. He refused to consider anything more, because considering more meant reopening a wound he had spent 5 years trying to close. One evening, 3 weeks into their marriage, a sudden storm knocked out the manor's power. Elena, unfamiliar with the house, became lost in the dark hallways. She stumbled into what turned out to be Damien's private study, knocking over a stack of old photographs kept in a wooden box on his desk. As she knelt to gather them by candlelight, one photograph caught her eye. It showed a laughing woman with dark hair, standing beside a much younger, smiling Damien, his arm wrapped around her shoulders. "That was a long time ago," Damien said from the doorway, his voice rougher than usual. Elena straightened quickly, holding out the photograph. "I'm sorry. I didn't mean to intrude." He took it from her without looking at it, setting it face down on the desk. "She was my mate. She disappeared 5 years ago. Nobody knows what happened to her." Elena felt an unexpected pang in her chest, sharp and unexplained. "I'm sorry for your loss." "It's not your concern," he said, though not unkindly. Then, almost against his will, he added, "You remind me of her sometimes. The way you move. It's strange." Elena said nothing, though the words settled deep inside her, stirring something she could not identify. That night, she dreamed of running through dark trees, of hands reaching for her, of a howl that sounded both like warning and heartbreak. She woke with tears on her face and no memory of why. As weeks turned into a couple of months, small moments began to build between them, unnoticed at first, even by themselves. Damien found himself seeking her out over dinner, asking about her day, watching the way she tucked her hair behind her ear when she was thinking. Elena found herself waiting for those brief conversations, treasuring the rare moments his guarded expression softened. Neither spoke of what was happening. Both were afraid of what it might mean. The first true crack in the walls between them came during the pack's harvest ceremony, a tradition where members of the pack shifted into their wolf forms beneath the full moon to honor the change of seasons. Elena had avoided shifting since arriving at Blackthorn, always finding excuses, always keeping to the edges of gatherings. But that night, surrounded by the energy of dozens of wolves shifting around her, something in her broke free before she could stop it. Her body changed against her will, bones shifting, fur emerging pale silver beneath the moonlight. Damien, standing at the head of the ceremony in his own wolf form, turned toward the sudden shift and froze completely. The wolf before him was smaller than his memory, thinner from years of hardship, but unmistakable, the pale silver fur, the crescent-shaped marking near her shoulder. The way she held her head slightly tilted, watching him with wide, uncertain eyes. His wolf, silent for 5 years, let out a sound that was not quite a howl and not quite a cry, a sound of pure recognition, and rushed forward before Damien's human mind could catch up. The moment their eyes locked, the mate bond that Damien believed severed forever roared back to life inside his chest, hot and undeniable, dragging with it a flood of memories. Laughter beside a lake, a promise whispered under starlight, an argument neither of them meant to have. The last morning he had held her hand before she left for what should have been a short visit to the border villages. Elena stumbled backward, overwhelmed by the same rush of sensation without any of the memories to explain it. Pain lanced through her skull as fragments tried to surface, images flashing too fast to hold on to. She shifted back to human form, gasping, clutching her head as Damien rushed to her side, his own human form trembling with disbelief. "It's you," he said, voice breaking. "You're her. You're my mate." "I don't understand," Elena whispered, tears streaming down her face from pain and confusion. I don't remember anything before 5 years ago." The ceremony dissolved into chaos as pack members realized what had happened. Word spread quickly, reaching Alpha Ashford within hours through informants still loyal to him inside Blackthorn territory. By morning, Ashford arrived at the manor himself, fury barely contained beneath a mask of concern. "She is my niece," Ashford insisted, standing in Damien's great hall. "Whatever confusion happened during your ceremony, it does not change who she is." "She is my mate," Damien said, voice low and dangerous. "The mate I lost 5 years ago. Tell me the truth, Ashford, or tell it to your entire pack when I bring this matter before the elders." Elena, standing between them, felt the weight of both men's stares and the war brewing beneath their words. "Please," she said, "I need answers, not more fighting." Reluctantly, cornered by the truth already unraveling around him, Ashford confessed. 5 years ago, during what was supposed to be a simple border skirmish, his warriors had found a wounded woman fleeing through the forest, disoriented and injured, her memory already fractured from trauma before they even reached her. Rather than returning her to Blackthorn territory and risking that her presence would strengthen his rival's pack, Ashford had made a choice driven purely by strategy. He kept her, renamed her, told her a false history, and raised her within his own family, always intending to use her someday as a valuable connection if the opportunity arose. He never confirmed her true identity, telling himself the uncertainty made his actions less like a betrayal and more like a convenient accident of fate. The revelation shattered something in Elena that went beyond confusion. Anger, grief, and a desperate need to understand her stolen years collided inside her all at once. "You knew," she said, voice trembling. "You knew who I might be, and you said nothing." "I did what was necessary for my pack," Ashford said, unmoved. "And I will not apologize for it." Furious and humiliated in front of his own daughter and his greatest rival, Ashford declared he would not allow this discovery to weaken his position. He threatened to pull his forces back into open conflict rather than let Elena's true identity be used to strengthen the very alliance meant to end the war, twisting the situation as though Damien had orchestrated the entire event to embarrass him. That night, as tensions boiled higher than they had in years, a group of Ashford loyalists, acting on secret orders, attempted to remove Elena from Blackthorn territory by force, intending to hide her away before the elders could formally recognize her identity and unite both packs through her bond with Damien. They struck during the quiet hours before dawn, slipping past outer guards and cornering Elena near the manor's eastern gardens. Elena fought back with a strength she did not know she possessed, memories of old defense training surfacing instinctively, even without full recollection of learning them. Damien, sensing her distress through the newly awakened bond, tore through the manor and reached the gardens within moments, his wolf form a blur of controlled fury as he confronted the attackers directly. Fighting side by side for the first time as true mates, their movements synced in a way neither could explain, strength doubling as the bond between them pulsed with renewed power. In the chaos of battle, as Elena knocked aside an attacker reaching for her, a final piece of memory broke free completely, flooding her mind with clarity. She remembered her real name, her true father long past, her childhood within Blackthorn territory, and the night she had gone missing while trying to warn her people about an incoming raid, ambushed before she could return home. She remembered Damien. She remembered loving him. When the attackers were finally subdued, Elena collapsed into Damien's arms, tears falling freely, not from confusion this time, but from the overwhelming relief of remembering everything she had lost. "I remember," she whispered against his chest. "I remember you. I remember us." Damien held her as though he might never let go again, his own tears finally falling after 5 years of forcing himself not to grieve. "I thought I lost you forever," he said. "I searched every day until I convinced myself hope was foolish. I am sorry I stopped believing." "You didn't fail me," Elena said softly. "We found each other again. That's what matters now." News of the attempted abduction and Ashford's role in hiding Elena's identity spread quickly through both packs, turning even his own warriors against him. Faced with undeniable evidence and the fury of his own people, Ashford was stripped of his title within days, his years of deception finally catching up to him. Leadership of the Ashford pack passed to more honorable hands, willing to pursue a real and lasting peace with Blackthorn. In the weeks that followed, the marriage that had begun as a political arrangement transformed completely. Damien and Elena renewed their bond formally before both packs, a ceremony filled not with obligation, but with genuine joy, witnessed by wolves from both territories standing together for the first time without fear. Elena took her place as Luna, not as a stranger fulfilling a duty, but as a woman finally home, surrounded by memories, love, and a future she thought she had lost forever. Damien ruled beside her with a heart no longer closed, his wolf finally at peace after 5 long years of silence. The war that once threatened to destroy both packs ended not through treaties or forced agreements, but through truth, resilience, and a bond stronger than the years and lies that had tried to keep it buried. What began as a marriage for peace became something far greater than either of them had imagined, a true reunion, and the beginning of a future neither had dared to hope for again.